I've decided to not show my face and conceal my identity because of the vast discrimination that Irish travellers and travellers in this country receive from the general public. We find ourselves victimised when people recognise us as travellers. I believe people are taught that travellers will steal your bike as children, they'll steal your children, they'll steal anything, they'll steal the apples off your trees. But the press do, and the media and the newspapers in general do push this agenda and this stereotypical view of travellers being outlaws. That's very much not the case. Travellers live within society, although we don't live as part of society. So the Parvi people have been in this country over 1600 years, a lot longer than many of the people in Basildon and their culture. We came here, we were helping the Romans when they were here with their horses. That's documented. We're mentioned in Shakespeare's time, he mentions us as the roving Irish. We're here at Henry VIII's where we were cold, not just us but gypsies as well. Well, 10 years ago, travellers came to this area. There was already illegal sites here, the yards have been passed. We don't call them pitch or plots, we call them yards. And the owner of the scrapyard sold the scrapyard to the travellers. The travellers then were believed, because it was a scrapyard and it wasn't greenbelt land, and they were actually advised that it wasn't greenbelt land, they removed hundreds upon hundreds of tons of rubbish and old engines and what have you that you're likely to find with a scrapyard off the land, cleared it all off, and there was already hardcore and hard standing down which the council had laid. And they moved on, tidied the place up, put in the fences and the walls, put down the hard standing and settled in. As far as they were concerned, in 1994, Michael Howard, a Conservative minister, told the travellers that because he was taking away the legal obligation for councils to identify land for travellers, that they should go away and buy their own. This was a council government, a Conservative government, which is basically what we have now. So the travellers took them at the word. They went away and bought the land, and lo and behold found that this didn't trickle down to local government, who quite quickly started putting injunctions on the land and stopping people living on their own land.
They thought by buying this place, that's it, it's the end of travelling. We're not going to give the council any more problems. The council and the police is never going to give us any more problems. We'll be left at peace. But again, it didn't work like that. As soon as the travellers pulled on it, it's automatically green belt, which is we went and got the blueprint, we got the maps, and we got everything to prove that it was brown belt. Tony Baldwin, we got the people that actually put the hard standing down. We got the bloke that we bought it from to come forward. And again, it's green belt, this, that, and then for Tony Ball to turn around and say, well, at the end of the day, it's contaminated ground. It's not even safe for children to be on. So what do they want it for? We got blueprint that in 2005, they were planning doing an eviction and they were planning on building in here. So get rid of the gypsies, we have a lovely place. We knew that from day one, what was underneath. It was an underneath the table thing.
It's an excuse really for people to allow their prejudice and bigotry to be shown, and their hates in many cases. What difference does a planning act really mean when you're talking about human rights? And it seems people in Basildon are more concerned with the Planning Act than they are with Human Rights Act. It's crazy, but people have to let off steam, people have to hate, people are going to be allowed to do this, and Basildon are leading the way in allowing that, to my mind. There's people in Basildon screaming and shouting and ranting for this site to be done away with, but there's children born here that are 10 years old, and they were born in Basildon and they live in Basildon and they're Essex born. There's people that have just moved into Essex in the last 10 years who are crying for these people to be evicted from Basildon. So there's outsiders coming in demanding that people born in Basildon actually be evicted out of Basildon. And it is what the council are trying to do. The council are not looking for alternative sites in Basildon. They've looked for alternative sites outside Essex, which is ethnic cleansing. You don't have to be killed and murdered to be ethnically cleansed. You could be just moved out and you're ethnically cleansed.
What's happening here at the minute now, there's a lot of anxiety going on. This morning now it was a lot of kind of heavy heart beating. That's what happens here on the morning of a court, on the day of a court. Anxious and heart racing to find out what it is that's going to become the outcome of the court. Are we going to be allowed to stay, or have we got to, there and then, got to go? So again, it's a lovely feeling to know that we're here for an extra day. To know that our children, the younger ones of them that went to school this morning, when they get off at that school bus, that they won't see the gate closed and loads of bailiffs and loads of police at the gate. Frightening them. It's nice to know that when they get off that bus, they have a gate open to walk in home.
If you ask a group of travellers to leave the land and move into bricks and mortar, into social housing, first of all, you're putting an extra strain on social housing in the area, and secondly, you're destroying the very essence of what travellers are, because they don't live in bricks and mortar. They live in caravans, in open spaces, in tight-knit communities. And so, also the fact that the Greenbelt argument is incredibly cynical, and that this was a brownfield site all the way from the 60s. It was a old scrapyard, and actually the council themselves put down some of the tarmac and the hardcore. There's just a couple of the issues that made me realise, once I looked at the facts, the core of all of this was based on prejudice, the fact that they're travellers. And that is why I felt it was really important to come here and to be involved in Dale Farm Solidarity and to try to stop this eviction in the best way that we could. And I think that what we've done is, what we've achieved so far, there's been a kind of triangle of stuff. There's been different people doing different things. So you've got the people that are working in the court, you've got the people that are working with the media. One thing I feel that we have contributed as activists here on the ground is that on that Monday the 19th, they were all geared up, they were on the front step, there was hundreds of bailiffs and there was police. And we locked ourselves onto things, we put our bodies in the way of state oppression, and we stopped them for just long enough for the other people that are doing what they're doing to get a court injunction and to tie it up again in bureaucracy, and that's where we are at the moment. So we're in a bit of a no man's land, but I think that actually we did stop the eviction. I'm not sure if we've stopped it forever, but we did do that on the 19th, and so that feels good to have been a part of that.
We have no chance of getting planning application accepted and put through if we do it the correct way. 3/3 of all planning applications that are turned down by the local councils are passed by the inspector in the end. But that's 4 or 5 years down the road, which basically means the traveller has to stay on the road for 4 or 5 years before that can be, before they can actually go on the land. The way travellers do it is by getting on the land and then retrospectively putting in for planning. It's unfair on the traveller to have to do that. But they have to do it, otherwise they won't get their applications through. And I do feel sorry for the residents who don't understand this, the non-traveller residents. All they see in the press is squatters on Greenbelt land. Well, for a fact, we're not squatters, we own the land. For another thing, if it is Greenbelt land, then it's a scrapyard, licensed scrapyard on Greenbelt land. They need to take that up to the council, why they licensed a scrapyard to be on Greenbelt land.
I think when you have a council that appears to have prejudice and ignorance about travellers as almost like as a policy to promote, it's not helping anything. I think there is a big fear of the unknown. I think fear of crime in this country, wherever you are, is a lot worse than the crime itself. And I think sort of local residents here who have a problem haven't thought about it because they haven't actually had to phone the police. They haven't actually had anything stolen. And if you do get people to speak to you, well, when they speak to me, they go, you know what, I didn't really even know the travellers were there until like the bailiffs and the media circus and the police turned up. You know, I mean, this community has kind of a high female population and has a lot of children, and that's what this community really is. It isn't a wild raggle-taggle band of gypsies of, you know, of folklore importance. You know what I'm saying? That they're each family is, you know, has individuals and everybody's different, but you know, generally I would say this is a really amazing community, and the local residents from outside of Dale Farm should maybe come up for a cup of tea, because I know that they'd get exactly the same hospitality that the supporters have been shown. And everyone here is in agreement anyway that this is best sorted with a plate of sandwiches and a pot of tea. If Tony Ball wants to come to tea, he can come to tea. If the local residents want to come to tea, they can come to tea. You know, if the police do come for tea, they're fine.
When you look at me, for all what you can see because of discrimination and my face blanked out, you're actually looking at yourself. You're looking at a person, a human being. You're looking at someone that's just got a slightly different way of life from you. We do pay our taxes, because if we didn't, I can assure you the tax man would be down on us as quick as anyone else. In fact, even more so, because they come onto our sites and check us for VAT and check us for all our taxes paid. We have accountants because we're mostly self-employed. We very rarely work for anybody else. We work for ourselves and work for our families. We're like you, we're struggling, we're trying to get by. We bought a bit of land, we wanted to live on it. We would help you to live on your land and stay on your land. This is home for us. This isn't a game. We want to live here. My last message would be to all the people of Britain, accept us as we are. Celebrate our diversity. Look to us as the same as you, but slightly different. We don't hate you. Please don't hate us.
The best answer for everyone is either leave us here, that's not costing the government or the taxpayers any money, or find us an alternative site. At the end of the day, the money that the Basildon Council is after paying just to keep those security and bailiffs in this field, that money could have been put to better use. So we didn't ask Tony Ball to spend that money on... We didn't ask Tony Ball to spend any money. He's the one that's wasting the money. We were trying to save the taxpayers' money by leaving us alone. We're not doing no harm to nobody. Our children, this is their homes. This is where they were born and brought up. And we're not asking nobody for nothing, only just leave us alone. For God's sake, have a heart and leave the children.